She was the first dean from an Asian business school to chair the International Board of the Association to Advance Collegiate Schools of Business. She also serves as independent director of Security Bank and is on the advisory board of international schools. Having lived and worked in the Philippines for nearly 10 years, she is an active participant in the local business community. With us on Thought Leaders, please welcome the first woman president and dean and MVP chair of marketing of the Asian Institute of Management, or AIM, Dr. Jikyeong Kang. Good to have you with us, Dr. Kang. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Cathy.
And congratulations on nearly 10 years.
I know.
So how has it gone so far?
It has been a journey, that's for sure. And some time ago, one of my colleagues bought me one of those things that you put it in a refrigerator, like a magnet
fridge
thing.
magnet.
Yeah, and it says half single. So why am I half single? I am a single. And he said, well, you're married to AIM, so you are half single. So I said, okay, I guess that's a compliment.
It is, and it seems you're married to the Philippines because it's like the longest stay you've had outside of South Korea.
Not quite, but getting there. I lived in the US almost 16 and a half, and then in the UK about 15, and then I came here. But in between, I lived in Spain for 2 years as well. But
So
you know, I actually feel like I'm a Filipina. Actually.
Well, that's nice of you to say. With all the hallyu going around and the time that you had arrived, that's when the whole Korean wave started.
That's true. Very true. Lucky. I remember going to many events, and sometimes partners come to attend the events together with their husbands. And all these ladies would come and say, Jikyeong, tell me about what kind of Korean cosmetics you use, what skincare routine do you use, and do you know this actor, this actress? So I think I'm kind of lucky to come to the Philippines when Korea, Korean food, Korean culture, K-drama, K-movie, K-pop, all very popular.
And the Korean language as well. I mean, a lot of folks just want to learn the language, if not just to watch it on streaming platforms. But have you learned the Filipino language in 10 years?
You know, I was afraid that she might be asking this. So I think more Filipinos would know more Koreans than I know Tagalog. I'm ashamed to say this. You know, I tried a little bit, but at my age, you know, I learn, and then I turn around and I forget. So that's my problem. So no, I don't speak Tagalog. But when I lived in Spain for 2 years, I tried to learn some Spanish then, because many years ago when I was much younger. So I do recognize some of the Spanish words in Tagalog. So sometimes I can guess what people are talking about, but not specifically in terms of, you know, is it going that way or this way or that way? I don't know, but I can guess what they're talking about.
Well, it's not too late, as you are a lifelong learner and you are an educator. I mean, a subject matter expert of many things, maybe on the side, on Korean makeup or maybe Korean language. But what's it been like just observing the Philippine educational system in its full spectrum, being in higher education institution as AIM?
When I first came in 2015, we were still talking about K-12, if you recall that. And to me, that was a bit odd, you know, very natural decision. You know, I was surprised to hear there are debates as to whether we should go to K-12 or not, because for me it was like, of course. But obviously there are other societal issues, economic concerns, but I'm glad we moved into that direction. I think all in all, we are moving in the right direction. I think that's all I can say. It's becoming more international. I like to see a lot more, but I think it used to be very insular. there are many historic reasons as to why it was more of, just doing things ourselves as opposed to collaborating with international institutions, looking outside as well as looking inside. So I think there has been good, steady progress over the last 10 years.
Knowing and appreciating the historical and cultural context, as you've lived here for 10 years, what do you think needs bridging, being in AIM, to get our young ones to appreciate that we shouldn't just be insular, but global in thinking?
I think it needs to happen at all levels. As we earlier talked about, Korean culture, Korean food, Korean drama, K-pop, all very popular. But I think that's good. That's better than just having everything Filipino. But on the other hand, we need to give opportunities for young people to experience what it's like to actually experience more than just the cultural aspects of being a global citizen. We need to open their hearts. We need to have them see what it's like to be a global citizen, not just a good Filipino citizen. And that requires participation and engagement from, of course, educators. It needs to be thought through at policy levels. We need lots of funding and resources, so we need help from private sectors. So it's not just what's going to happen at home with the parents, but it needs to happen at all levels, and it needs to be very strategic at national level.
Seems like AI checks all those boxes that you just mentioned there.
There we go.
It is imperative. It's a force that's coming from outside, and that we need to harness from the inside. So where is AIM coming from? As a higher education institution to get everyone together, the full education ecosystem to help make sense of AI and make it safe and ethical for us.
AI is not going to disappear. How it's going to play out, we don't know yet for sure. But for sure, it is going to have a dramatic effect on personalized learning, because AI can help us to tailor the learning speed, mode of learning, how we provide feedback, how they change their course of learning. All of those things can be personalized at much more affordable, accessible way. So that's definitely going to happen. It's going to also help us to design curriculum in a much more effective way, efficient way, whilst addressing program learning objectives, but also addressing different levels in the background experience of the students. But as you can imagine, where we need to spend a lot of time, and it's not only at AIM, but all higher educations, but it actually goes back to K-12 in terms of educating, upskilling, reskilling teachers and professors. Because all of these things came about in very recent times, although the technology AI existed for a long time. So it's not only educating and training students and young minds and graduate students at AIM, but it's also changing the mindset of educators, changing how we teach, what we teach at higher ed level, including AIM. So that's going to be a big subject matter that we have to deal with. Also changing our administration, looking into algorithms of AI, so to make sure that it is not going to disadvantage people, students coming from areas where they were not so privileged to have access to technology. As you know, even internet access is not something that we can take for granted all throughout the Philippines. Not all high school teachers are prepared to teach any subject using or related to AI. I know DepEd has a few programs trying to upskill K-12 teachers, but we need to scale up. We need to scale up fast, and I think again it goes back to where the resources come from, and how can we do this in a manner that we're not falling behind, but we actually keeping up with, and also have an opportunity to catch up.
So much to do in a whole of country approach, if you will, but there is that universal force, that global trend that we also have to take note of, the changes in the administration, political administration, in fact, in the US, where the president-elect, Donald Trump, has indicated that he will free up AI. Coming from an administration where guardrails are being considered to consider the ethical risks of AI. So in a situation where we find that there is more freeing up of AI, how do we take on governance of AI?
That's really a tough question, and I'm kind of looking forward to what's going to happen with the new administration, especially with appointment of Elon Musk. I mean, that's going to have a huge ramifications in terms of some of the policy changes, in terms of what's going to happen at the practical level. I think, what the government is going to do, whether it's the U.S. or the Philippines or anywhere in between, what the private sector is going to do, what the educators need to do within our own industry, I think we all have our responsibilities. So for example, at AIM 2 years ago, we made 2 courses mandatory for all of our degree programs. So one is sustainability and ethics. So regardless of the program you enroll, whether you're an MBA program, cybersecurity program, data science program, they all have to take sustainability and ethics. The other is AI, because we saw tsunami of AI coming into all facets of our lives, right? So thinking about ethical use of AI, thinking about, yes, how AI will replace some of the jobs, there's no doubt about it, but there are plenty of new jobs will be created at the same time. How do we actually prepare our students? I don't think we can ever prepare our students to be 100% ready for a long-term future, because things are changing so fast, right? So we need to think about how to give them critical thinking skills, how to give them heart and passion, not just technical aspects, how to use the tools like AI in ways that are ethical, what are the governance issues that we need to think about, what are the challenges related to how we manage and store data. It's going to be a huge issue. And we need to continuously educate, continuously study, review what we do and how we do. So I think it will be a very long, serious learning process that everybody has to engage. And then I am a firm believer, if anything we want to push forward hard, we need the government, policymakers, private sector, higher ed or education, academia in general, we need to work together. And I think if I may add, the fourth one is the community. If we can bring this together, that is when we can actually achieve something that we're very keen to achieve effectively and efficiently.
And the operative words, upskilling, reskilling, these are what we need to do on the one hand, but also consider the fact that we are in differing levels of digital adoption.
Correct.
Compared with other ASEAN countries. What are you seeing on the ground? Are we adopting as fast as we are upskilling, or is it the other way around? Because there are job losses in there because of that gap.
Yeah. I think a lot of different organizations, and I mentioned DepEd, I know CHED is working on it, so they are all working on it, but if you ask me, I'm not a very patient person, so I would like to see things moving faster, and we need to reduce the redundancies as much as possible, working in silos, rather than pulling resources and energies and great ideas together to move forward together. I think that's what I would like to see more of, because everybody doing their own thing, even NGOs, right, can only get you so far. So I think we need to bring more of the leaders together to see how we do different aspects of what we need to do, but holistically, we have a strategic roadmap as to how we're going to get there, whether we're talking about K-12 or college or graduate school or upskilling, reskilling current workforce. I think it goes through the whole thread of the same idea. We need to work together.
With the same goal of really addressing the emerging pathways, if you will.
Exactly.
Speaking about the whole ASEAN or maybe even Asian region, what are you seeing there as emerging pathways in the way of digital or maybe even green careers? As you mentioned, sustainability.
Yeah, I think they should be merged together. You know, a lot of sustainability issues can be tackled better using technology, especially AI, big data. If you look at a lot of research related to climate change, for example, old ways of looking at the data can only get you so far, but now with the big data, data science, machine learning, we can do a lot of analytical steps much faster and draw insightful, relevant information very, very quickly. So I don't think they are necessarily two separate issues. And one of the reasons at AIM that we have Executive Master in Disaster Risk and Crisis Management, but we also have a full suite of data science program, undergraduate program, which we studied 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago. And then we have a master's in data science program, PhD in data science program. They work very closely together. And sometimes one program students may become a client of the other programs because they're trying to solve the problem together, and that's the kind of approach that we need to do rather than having siloed initiatives and efforts that may overlap but still leave some problems untackled.
Data science, very interesting you mentioned, because AIM is the first to offer data science in masters,
yes,
correct?
Correct.
That was nearly
7 years ago.
7 years ago. So I'm wondering, what's the take-up rate like? Because when you were just starting, what was data science anyway?
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
has that changed with AI?
That's absolutely right, Cathy. People didn't even know the words data science. I mean, people talk about business analytics, maybe even data analytics. Maybe some people heard about artificial intelligence, but data science was very, very new. And I think a lot of our very good universities in the Philippines were shocked. One of those that you do a double take where you go, AIM, data science, what the heck, right? Because we've been known for, at that point, some 47 years plus as a management school, as a business school. But what we decided to do at AIM was looking into the future, Industry 4.0. The businesses and data cannot be separated. IT or ICT used to be very technical field, but it's now very, very strategic, right? So the way we envisage and the way we have been running data science program is a bit different from a lot of data science program. And when we first studied the data science program, the way we designed the curriculum was shocking to many people, because our aspiration was to bring 1/3 of MBA curriculum and very hardcore data science together. And our data science faculty used to use this expression: we are educating captains of the industry who can actually understand the data science, but also understand the business problem. They will not be hiding in the basement, dark room, just coding, following the instructions, but they can sit down with the board members, the CEOs and CFOs, and understand the business problem, and they can solve the business problem using the data science techniques and solutions. So our approach to data science was very different, and this is how we persuaded our stakeholders to see running and offering data science program AIM is a correct thing to do at that time.
So where are those captains? I mean, have they
They are
deployed
leading
in
all of
boardrooms
the
and
multinational companies,
Here in the
large
Philippines.
corporations. They have gone overseas as well. But if you look at, I won't name names, but if you look at all the large corporations or sometimes mid-sized companies or startups in technology, they are all our graduates already. Very, very proud. Yeah.
And how's the stream of students coming along? I mean, it must have been hard 7 years ago, but right now there must have been a deluge.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's it like looking now, and how are you now maybe reformatting or reforming because of the greater demand?
That's right. We have to continuously reinvent ourselves, right? As you mentioned rightfully, thank you for mentioning it. We were the first data science program. It shocked all the top universities in the Philippines because we were the last school to actually offer data science program, right? But now almost all universities are offering data science-like programs, right? And of course, our operational cost is very differently structured. We have more than half our faculty are international faculty, and it does come at a challenging issues that we need to tackle with that UP, for example, may not have because they have funding sources from government that we don't have any access to. So we have to be thinking about not only what is right in terms of program offerings, but we also have to think about what is a market willing to pay for and accept, right? It's sort of like an MBA program. If you look at MBA program, you have Ivy League schools that will cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then I say there are cheap and cheerful local MBA programs. You may get same kind of knowledge and skills, but delivered and experienced in a very, very different way. And price ranges like this. So I think the market has diversified. When we first started, we had a very hardcore people. AIM is the only place offering data science program. I have to find a way to enroll myself. Now there are more and probably wider audience who are interested in pursuing data science graduate degree programs. But then not everybody can afford AIM tuition. I wish that we can offer everything free, right? Because I know we have the best programs by far. We have 8 data science faculty, physicists, computer scientists, statisticians, even people coming from a very different scientific field that actually study the data science program together. So we have the best, but we also recognize the market demand is changing. So in April, we'll be launching another program. It's called the Master in Data Analytics program. So if you think about our MBA program offering business analysis concentration, and then we look at our full-time data science program, which is very technical, very, very demanding. Master in Data Analytics, tackling business issues, but not in a very light touch way, but not in a very heavy touch way where they need to have a lot of very strong math and a lot of programming, but they can use a lot of apps, they can understand the business problems, they can talk to real data scientists if needed. So it's kind of midway, and I think when we presented to our board of trustees, it was of the 13, 14 programs I presented to the board, it was the most enthusiastically received the program because they all run the businesses and they realize they need people who can speak the both languages, and also a lot of people cannot quit their job. That was the #1 problem with our data science program, because not only they cannot afford the tuition because it's a bit high for a lot of Filipinos, but also they are breadwinners, they cannot quit their job. So this MDA, Master in Data Analytics program, is actually addressing that market as a part-time program.
Well, let me pick up on funding, because you lament the fact that you can't get government funding, but you do have the backing of the private sector.
Yeah.
In the board, representing the various conglomerates that would be so interested to get the graduates of your data science data analytics programs.
yeah.
So what kind of support are you now getting,
Okay.
given the huge demand?
Right. So we are very lucky. Now it has been almost 5 years that Aboitiz Foundation decided to give us a $10 million donation. That within the context of international business school setting or international university setting, it's not a huge amount, because some of the top universities in Europe and in the US are getting hundreds of millions and sometimes billions of gift. But for the Philippines, as far as we know, that is still single largest cash donation. There are larger donations given by the land, for example, but this is hard currency out of pocket, so it was very, very significant. And the conversation got started because they were very interested in what we're doing with the data science program, what we are doing with the innovation program, what we are doing with the entrepreneurship program. And with that gift, we have interest-free loan to our students. So, you need a very large amount of money or endowment if you only want to use interest to give away as a scholarships, right? But that is a really, really large amount of money. Otherwise, the recipient or the people who are actually receiving the scholarships will be very, very small. But this was a very innovative program at the time, because what we decided to do was we are going to give away as a loan, and they start paying back once they graduate. So the money will last because it goes out and comes back, goes out and comes back. And I'm really hoping that we can raise more of this kind of money, because whether you are helping us with a $1 million, $2 million, that will go much farther, much longer period than giving away as a scholarship. And we also believe that people receiving scholarships and allowance, they grow better heart, bigger heart, if they can give back. So we also believe there is a benefit of making students pay back. When they cannot afford to pay the tuition, here is a help. But with the AIM degree, they can get better jobs, get promotions, better paying jobs, and now is their time to give back to more students who want to join the program. So,
tell us more about those students, because as I understand, the Student Loan Assistance Program started in 2019, even before the pandemic. So
Correct.
for sure, those
Correct.
beneficiaries have already found jobs, or maybe
Yeah.
even given back.
Exactly. We are very happy to say we haven't had any default. So normally they are given anywhere between 3 to 6 months to pay back, and oftentimes they're getting 150%, 200% raise in their salaries. So the contract, if you will, they have with the loan, interest-free loan, is to pay back over 36 months, 48 months, and so on and so forth. But sometimes we have students coming and say, I want to pay back sooner. Can I pay 30% now, or can I pay 50% later? And I think that's also partially Filipino mentality. One thing I noticed when I came to the Philippines is idea of borrowing money to go to school is still not very common. Whereas in the US, even in the UK, most students think they will borrow to go to school and they pay back for the rest of their life. I know it can be burdensome, but I think still a lot of Filipinos want to get rid of their loan as quickly as possible. So we're very, very happy that program is allowing some of the students who never been able to dream of attending AIM programs, attending the program, but they're also paying back so that we can continue to offer the programs and scholarships and loans to other students.
So how to change the mindset of maybe the parents of those students who want in to the program on a funding basis?
Yeah, and we're trying to do that with the undergraduate program as well, and then we need to think more about the parents, obviously, because when we started recruiting for undergraduate students, what we quickly realized is that when you are recruiting for master's programs or PhD programs, you don't always sell the program or the idea to parents. But when you are marketing undergraduate program, we're selling to potential students, we're selling to parents, we're selling to school teachers, guidance counselors. So there are a lot of different audiences. But I think, hopefully we'll be able to convince people this is an investment. I think the way I look at it is the best investment you can ever make, right? And I always say all my life, when somebody asks, I have an admission from this school, admission from that school, I have this much scholarship, I have that much scholarship or no scholarship, where do you want me to go? What is your recommendation? My recommendation is, there are good schools, there are best schools, depending on the rankings and different kind of external data, but I think there is a right school for you, right? So you have to find what kind of university, what kind of culture is right for you. I think not only finding the best school, but the right school for you is very important. But once you find the right school, do whatever you need to do to be able to get in and to be able to enroll, because you only have that opportunity once. If you're lucky, maybe you have another second opportunity, but that is going to stay with you for the rest of your life. I sometimes say, you don't get to choose your parents, and you may think, why didn't I have rich parents who can get me anything I want, et cetera, et cetera. But schools, you have a choice. You have a choice. And don't try to think of it only as a safe, risk-free opportunity. Get to the right school, the best right school you can get into. If you have to borrow the money, borrow the money. Whether it's your parents, it's your bank, it's a school, because the rest of your life will be on a different path if you go to the right school.
Do you
study the right program.
Notice a certain demographic coming to AIM to give it a chance?
Yeah.
Do you notice that they're coming from maybe a certain class in the community?
Yeah.
Or has it become more diverse?
Yeah.
And have you accepted those in communities that you wouldn't have otherwise thought of?
Yeah, well, we do. And then I personally think it's very important to widen accessibility of the kind of education we offer at AIM. So if you don't have a scholarship program, if you don't have a loan program, obviously, very small segment of the population can afford to attend the AIM program. But it's not only to benefit those who are less privileged to be able to benefit from the kind of education we offer. I also believe people who can actually afford AIM tuition can and will benefit by being in the same classroom with the people who are less privileged. So yes, I have many students who will say, my grandparents, I just talked to one last week. My grandparents told me, when you grow up, when he was this little, when you grow up, you have to go to AIM to do your graduate study. And he says, I finally got accepted. My grandparents is up there, but if he's watching me down here, he'll be very happy. I have one faculty member who was given an opportunity to attend the AIM's MBA program many, many, many years ago. He wasn't able to, and then he got hired as a faculty member, and he said that was like one of the best days in his life. So, widening access and making sure diverse population of students are actually learning together is very important. Just as important as you have the best curriculum, best professors, and best material.
And also widening that ecosystem, because we've talked about the partnership you have with the private sector,
Yeah.
but what about with government? You made a
Yeah.
mention of DepEd, the Department
Yeah.
of Education, and with Secretary Angara in
Yeah.
office, he's made a mention of the 5-point agenda, one of
Correct.
which is digital adoption.
Correct.
So how is AIM aligning with that and making
Right.
sure that all the bits and parts just come together?
Yeah. So we ran two very large programs in cooperation with the CHED. So this was called Global Academic Leadership Program, and we had first cohort of about 150 students. They are state university and college presidents. And then we did the second cohort, which involved the local university presidents and deans and administrators. And it is about upscaling the higher education administrators in terms of how do we actually deal with these future generations and what should be our agenda as far as upskilling, upgrading everything we do in higher education. We also did pro bono program for high school students. And we are still hoping that we can scale up and train the trainers, because we have 8 data science faculties. Is probably easily the largest number of data science faculty we have at AIM. But still, they have day job of running the programs and doing their research and all that. So the idea of training these high school teachers at AIM by our data science faculty was that we are hoping that we can find the funding to actually train high school and maybe even middle school teachers so they can go and train more teachers in their region, their areas, because there are thousands and thousands of teachers and our professors cannot be training all of them. But we're hoping that we can find appropriate donor funder, whether it's a government agency or a private sector, who will help us train the trainers so that we can accelerate the education and training of our teachers, because that's where we need to start. In some cases, I'm sure you can easily imagine, students know more about how to use technology or AI tools, and we cannot have that too long.
And also soft skills. You make a mention of K-12 right at the start of this conversation.
Yeah.
It really is high school where the formative years are so important, not just for the technical education, but the learning of the soft skills.
Yeah.
So where does AIM come in when it comes to that?
Yeah.
That holistic sort of education.
Yeah, leadership is very, very important. Leadership is very important. So it's an important part of all of our curriculum. But also having ethical mindset and having a leadership that is purposeful and care about people, not just about the bottom line. Thinking about ESG and how that applies to what they do on an everyday basis. I think a lot of skills that we teach, techniques we teach, toolboxes that walk away is very, very important. But learning how to work with the people, how to lead people, how to inspire people. I'm very, very happy. Sometimes I see alumni or even corporate leaders, and they will say AIM tagline, lead, inspire, transform, because that's at the front of our front loan. And I think that's something that we really try to live by, and how we educate our students, that we try to instill in the mindset. It's not just the techniques that we're trying to teach, because if that's all you learn, you can learn online, you can learn from the books, but we are bringing people together because there are more than just the knowledge and skill sets we're trying to impart. But it's actually about working with the people, leading people, inspiring people, so that we can actually transform this society, community, and the nation and the region and more. It's a very important mission that we have.
It is, and you made a mention of having that global mindset to be able to accept that we're just not insular.
Yeah.
And I'm aware that there is an interest from AIM to carry on with the transnational
Yes.
sort of dual degree program. But how does this all now come together? Of just opening people's mindsets, the Filipino talent, the upskilling, and all that.
So Transnational Educational Memorandum of CHED existed for a few years, but nobody tapped it. So nobody was doing it. And for us, it was a great opportunity because, after having been here for almost, I think at that point, 8 years or so, we decided to have higher ambition, aspiration, because graduate programs, for example, when 56 years ago, when AIM launched this MBA program with the Harvard Business School Advisory Board and all the top business leaders in the Philippines, it was a 2-year program. One of those years, they have to live in a dormitory residential. So we had more opportunities to shape them in a way. But now, graduate programs, even part-time programs, are 18 months. 2 of our full-time programs are 12 months. So it's a very, very short period of time in terms of being able to shape their thoughts and minds, not just giving them techniques or knowledge or skills, right? So that was one thought. We want to work with and educate young minds whilst they are still in the formative years. So that was one reason we wanted to go downstream and start offering undergraduate program. But we also have to be realistic about it. Having English teacher, math teacher, history teacher, psychology teacher, because we want to offer general education. To offer 1 or 2 undergraduate program is very expensive, time-consuming, risky. So we saw this transnational education memorandum of CHED as a great opportunity. We can team up with internationally reputable university who already has success they can demonstrate, and we don't have to take some of the risk to see. It's a kind of test case, isn't it? AIM has been a graduate school for 55 years. Can our audience, our market, if you will, accept AIM now as a provider of undergraduate education? But I also thought, I don't have any children, but if I had a 16, 17-year-old sons or daughters, and I know a lot of parents do, sending them away to America or even someplace else in Asia, Singapore, Hong Kong, or Europe, it's kind of nerve-wracking, isn't it? Because they're still very, very young, vulnerable, sensitive. So I thought by working on transnational education curriculum, we can have cake and eat it. We can have them here freshman year, junior year, of the junior year, freshman, sophomore, junior. And then on the 4th year, this is the way we designed it, when now they are 20, 21, now they can go abroad. They are now college students, more mature, but they can still benefit from first 3 years of their college years by having international faculty, having opportunities to work on a very different kind of curriculum. But then on the 4th year, they get to go to America. We're now working with another university in China, Shanghai, and that is going to broaden their horizons so much. And I can say that because I left Korea when I was 22. I went to America, as I mentioned earlier. I went to England. I lived in Spain. I'm in the Philippines. The reason I took on that chair of ASSB is not just because I'm some brilliant person, but I think I brought to the association a very international, truly global perspectives that are coming from experience, because I lived in different continents. I experienced different educational systems. And I can say from deep down here, watching a movie or reading a book is very different. Or taking long summer holidays in some exotic places is very different from actually living and studying and experiencing different parts of the world. So I think what we want to do in terms of nation building effort, if you will, what we want to do in terms of globalizing our educational systems and options available in the Philippines, and what we want to accomplish for, of course, AIM, they all came together in offering our first transnational education undergraduate program, which we started August last year. And this August, we had the second cohort. They are just absolutely adorable young, I don't want to say children, but much younger than our graduate students, and they're really enjoying the program.
Well, before we part, I just wanted to get your thoughts. You never mentioned that maybe gender had been a benefit to all the gains you've had, the travels you've made. But what does it take for a woman leader to actually create the same path as you have?
Grab the opportunity you have. Okay, so if you don't take any risk, maybe your journey will be smoother, but also the gains will relatively smaller. So when you have an opportunity, maybe you take a bit of risk that you can digest, and maybe a little bit more than that. Everybody is different. That's one. And two, I personally don't see whatever weakness I have as a weakness. I don't like victim mentality. So instead of feeling, when I was in America, I barely speak English, therefore I cannot do anything. I'm a woman with 12 other men in dark suits, therefore I should be quiet, I'm Asian, I'm with all white people, so what do I know? I try not to think of what I don't have, but I try to focus on what I have and what I can contribute that other people don't have. So I don't have to say the same thing that other people said, but I can add different perspectives, shed different lights. And if we have the right group of people with the right mindset, they will value that. So be brave, take some risk, and get out of your comfort zone and go for it.
And keep counting those blessings. Dr. Kang, thank you so much, and all the best in the new year.
Thank you very much.
And catch us again next Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Philippine Standard Time on One News. You can also check out the long conversation on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And if you haven't done so, like or follow my social media pages. I'm Cathy Yang, and this is Thought Leaders.